Hello, welcome to HMIS Custom Training of ShelterPoint for Singles. I'm your trainer, HMIS Program Specialist, Shante Smith. During this training, we will be working in the ShelterPoint module within ServicePoint. This module is specific to those projects who want to track their daily bed utilization. We will go through the steps of checking clients who enter your project in and out of a bed. We will also work through some examples and a possible scenario that may occur. Please note that if you have any questions, to contact us at the HMIS Help Desk via email at hmissupport@cir.org or by phone or text at 602-908-3605. Thank you, and let's get started. Once you log into the system, go to the left side of your screen to the menu and locate the ShelterPoint button. Once you click it, the ShelterPoint dashboard page will appear. You will see a header that says View Shelter Inventory. Beneath that header, you will see your provider listed, and underneath the provider, you will see a drop-down list titled Unit List. Please keep in mind that your provider may have multiple unit lists available. You will select the appropriate list you wish to view and click the Submit button to the right of this Unit List option. The ShelterPoint dashboard provides different options of which you can use to check a client into your project, as well as other tools to help manage your project shelter inventory. The Check Client In button is used when you're ready to check your client into a bed at your project. The Express Check-In button is rarely used. By using this button, you can check clients into the first available bed by searching for them. This is typically used by large shelter overflow projects who don't assign beds to certain clients. The Check-In Referral button is used when a client has been referred to your agency through ServicePoint by another agency. The Hold All Empty Beds button is used very rarely. Your project has the ability to place a hold on all empty beds for a certain amount of time. The Print ID Cards button is also rarely used. By using this button, you are able to print ID cards for your clients. The ID cards would then be scanned using specific equipment in order to track specific services provided. This option requires customized training. If your agency is interested in utilizing this option, please send inquiries to the HMIS Help Desk. The Update Confirmation List button is also rarely used. It is a feature that aids in confirming the individuals checked into your project shelter inventory. The Transmit Today's Checkout List button is used for shelter projects who do mass checkouts daily. Within this feature, you are able to check out selected clients all at once. The View All button is used when you wish to view the entire shelter inventory list. Now, return to the home screen to work an example of checking a client into a bed using the Check Client In option. A client has presented to my project for shelter. He has been accepted, and it is my responsibility to check him into a bed. To review how to get to your ShelterPoint dashboard, repeat the following steps. Go to the left side of your screen to the menu and locate the ShelterPoint button. Once you click it, the ShelterPoint dashboard page will appear. You will see a header that says View Shelter Inventory. Beneath that header, you will see your provider listed, and underneath the provider, you will see a drop-down list titled Unit List. Please keep in mind that your provider may have multiple unit lists available. You will select the appropriate list you wish to view and click the Submit button to the right of the Unit List option. Next, locate the Check Client In button. Once you click it, your screen will change to reflect your shelter inventory information. A current bed list will show on the screen. If a bed is open and not occupied, you will see on the left side of the screen a green circle with the plus sign, and on that same line you will see to the right of your screen that it will say Empty. To check a client into a bed, you will click on the green circle with the plus sign, or you can click on the empty link. When you do, your screen will change to reflect the client search option. You are able to search for your client that is to be checked into this bed by their name or by their designated HMIS client ID number. Since I know my client's name, I will go ahead and complete the rest of this information, such as the name data quality. My client does not know their Social Security number, so I will list this as client doesn't know. And this is where I need to answer if my client is a U.S. military veteran. And I will then click search to search for my client. It seems that my client has already been added into the system. Since he has an existing profile, I will go ahead and click on the green circle with the plus sign to use the existing record. Once I do, it takes me to the unit entry data screen. Please note that you are unable to be in backdate mode while working in the ShelterPoint module. Because of this, you must, I repeat, you must make sure the date in is the actual date your client began to occupy that bed. You must manually change it yourself. When you have changed that date to reflect the current data, then you will then scroll down to complete the Ude assessment for your client. Once you scroll down, you will see a header that says Entry Data. Below the header, you will see your provider listed, and next you will ensure that the correct type is listed for your provider. In this case, it is HUD. Once I've completed that information, I can begin to complete the universal data elements on the Ude assessment. You will begin with the date of birth using their reported date of birth and 4-digit year. If a client cannot give you a date of birth, ask their age and approximate their date of birth year by using 0101 for the month and date. Then you will need to list a date of birth type. Since my client told me that they are 30 years old, I know they were born in 1985, so I will list their date of birth type as approximate or partial date of birth reported. Next, you will list your client's primary race and ethnicity. If you aren't sure how to define it, take your cursor and hover over it, and it will provide you with HUD definitions. Keep in mind, if your client reports to you to be of Hispanic or Latino descent, their primary race is white. Their ethnicity is Hispanic Latino. Also, if your client does not report to have a secondary race, please do not duplicate the primary race. Next, you will list your client's gender. If they report something other than what is listed on the 4 options, then choose Other and use the text field box below to specify what the other gender is. The next question, does the client have a disabling condition? You will select Yes or No, Client doesn't know, Client refused, or Data not collected. If you hover over this question, you will be provided with the detailed information about HUD's definition of disabilities. Residence prior to project entry means where did your client sleep the night before they came to your project? Please keep in mind that place not meant for habitation can be used if your client slept on the streets, a car, a park, or in an abandoned building. Rental by client with VASH subsidy. VASH is Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing. Rental by client with GPD TIP subsidy stands for Grant Per Diem Transition in Place. Just know that these two are typically veteran projects. Then, a safe haven is transitional housing for those individuals who are seriously mentally ill. And again, if your client reports an other type of residence, please use the text field box below to specify. Length of stay in previous place. This question relates to the residence prior to project entry. For this question, we would like to know how long your client resided there. Zip code of last permanent address. Please specify the 5-digit zip code of the last place your client was housed for 90 days or more. If your client cannot remember the exact zip code, then please use the last city they resided in to complete the question. There is a cheat sheet, and if you take your cruiser and hover over the question, you'll be provided with the city and county list of zip codes. Next, relationship to head of household. Since you work with singles, the answer to this question will always be self, head of household. Client location is the Continuum of Care code, also known as the COC code, that was assigned to the balance of state projects. There's only one option in the drop-down menu. Please make sure that you select it. Homelessness primary reason. Use this list to choose the reason of why your client has become homeless.
Length of time on street in an emergency shelter or safe haven. These set of questions, along with other questions in the assessment, will help you determine if your client is chronically homeless. Please answer these questions on all heads of households and adults. Let's go over to the first question. Client entering from the streets, ES or SH. To the right, answer from the pick list, yes or no. Answer yes if the client is entering your project directly from a place not meant for habitation, an emergency shelter, or safe haven. Answer no if the client entering your project from any other location. Diversion and homeless prevention projects should choose no. So for this scenario, I'm going to choose yes. Answer the next question if yes for clients entering from streets, ES or SH, approximate date. If your client is coming from the streets, ES or SH, you should have the client look back to the last time the client was not on the street, ES or SH. I'm going to give you a few guidelines, you can call them rules, to answer some of these questions. If there was a break in their time on street, ES or SH, of less than 7 nights, do not count it as a break. It would be one continuous episode of homelessness. If the client experienced a break for more than 7 nights, count a break in between episodes. If a break in time was 90 days or less due to an institutional stay, such as jail, substance abuse or mental health treatment facility, hospital, or any other similar facility, that time should be included in the start date time. If the client was at an institutional stay for longer than 90 days, they're considered to be housed. If the client knows the month that the homelessness started, but not the exact day, use the day they're entering from your project with the month and year that they reported, because this is self-reported information. Documents in HMIS may be used only to jog the memory of the client, but cannot be substituted for information they provided directly to you. If the answer above was no, then just leave this question blank. So for this scenario, I'm going to say 10/9 of 2014. Next question. Regardless of where they stayed last night, number of times the client has been homeless on street in ES or SH in the past 3 years, including today. So please record appropriate answer for number of times the homelessness experience in the past 3 years for any combination of place not meant for habitation, emergency shelter, or safe haven. When counting episodes, please use the guidelines and the rules that I explained previously. Never in the past 3 years should be used for diversion or homeless prevention projects only. So from this pick list, you would choose never in 3 years, 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 or more times. So for this scenario, I'm going to say 2 times. Total number of months homeless in streets in ES or SH in the past 3 years. So from this pick list, you would count the accumulated number of months a client was homeless and residing in one or any combination of these 3 locations in the past 3 years. Please note, any single day or part of a month spent homeless should be counted as 1 full month. So if it's more than 12 months, you don't have to calculate anything more than that. You would just put in more than 12 months. So I'm going to choose more than 12 months for this scenario. Then we have length of time homelessness, status documented. To answer this question, yes or no, indicate if there is documentation of the client's length of homelessness, either in the client's paper file or in HMIS for either the number of times homeless or number of months homeless in the past 3 years. So this is asking for proof. So you can answer it either yes or no. I'm going to answer it yes for this scenario.
Now, you will review all of the information on your screen to make sure it is correct. Then look towards the bottom of the screen and click the Save and Exit button. You will then be returned to your shelter inventory information page. As a side note, when you check a client into a unit at your project, a service of shelter stay will automatically be created. To view the shelter stay, you can click on your client's name so that the unit stay entry data screen appears. This is where you will locate the Jump to Profile button, which is actually located at the bottom left-hand side, and then click it. A warning box will appear asking if you want to leave the unit stay entry data screen to go to the client's profile. This is where you will choose yes. At this point, you will be directed to your client's profile. From there, go to the Service Transactions and click it. Once you do, you will be directed to your Service Transactions dashboard. Locate the button that says View Shelter Stays and click it. Your screen will then direct you to the client's shelter stay history. Now you may return back to your ShelterPoint bed list. As another quick note, in the event that you accidentally checked the wrong client into a bed, there is an easy fix. You will go to your shelter's current unit list and then click on the client's name. Once you do, the unit stay entry data screen will appear and you will look to the bottom for the button that says Delete Shelter Stay and click it. A warning box will appear asking if you want to delete the shelter stay and you will click Delete. If you run into an issue like this, please don't hesitate to contact the HMIS support team at the HMIS help desk. We will assist you in correcting the mistake. Now return to the home screen. Please note that when checking a client into a bed, it automatically creates a project entry. This can be viewed on your client's profile inside of the Entry Exit tab. You will use the Client Point button to search for your client. Once you have brought up their client record, you will click on the Entry Exit tab to view this entry. If you are a case manager and you wish to record more data on your client, you can do so by clicking the pencil to the left of the entry date. And by doing so, you will be directed to the Edit Entry Data screen. This is where you will click Save and Continue. It will then direct you to the Entry Exit Data screen that has defaulted the Universal Entry Assessment. You can use the universal data elements to make sure that all of the answers have already been listed. If you scroll past these, you will see the program data elements. This is where you can record your client's income, non-cash benefits, health insurance information, disability information, and other questions your community has decided to keep. Once you've answered those, you can scroll to the bottom and click Save and Exit. Now, return to the home screen to work through the next example of checking a client into a bed using the View All option. To review how to get to your ShelterPoint dashboard, repeat the following steps. Go to the left side of your screen to the menu and locate the ShelterPoint button. Once you click it, the ShelterPoint dashboard page will appear. You will see a header that says View Shelter Inventory. Beneath that header, you will see your provider listed, and underneath the provider, you will see a drop-down list titled Unit List. Please keep in mind that your provider may have multiple unit lists available. You will select the appropriate list you wish to view and click the Submit button to the right of the Unit List option. Now, since I'm unaware of current available beds on my project, I will select the View All option to see my project's entire bed list. Once I click that option, the screen will change to reflect my shelter inventory information. A current bed list will show on the screen. Once I have viewed the list for availability, I will select an open bed to check my client into using the same steps we just worked through. This is where, again, I will search for my client, and click the green circle with the plus sign to use that profile. Again, don't forget to make sure that the date in actually matches the date they began to occupy the bed. Next, I will scroll down to view the Ude Only Assessment. If some of the questions on the Universal Data Elements assessment have already been completed, that is okay. You just need to make sure that you go through every question and verify that that information is still true. And for the questions that are not answered, this is where you will need to answer them. And please remember, the length of time on street, an emergency shelter, or safe haven must be answered. Once you've answered all of these questions and then verified to make sure that the questions that were previously answered are still correct, this is where you will go ahead and click Save and Exit. You will then be redirected to your shelter inventory information page to show the most current data. Now return to the home screen to work through the next example. When you are ready to check your client out of the bed that they were assigned to, you will repeat all the same steps to get yourself to the shelter inventory information page. Then you will locate the client you are trying to exit and look for the red circle with the minus sign on the left side of the page. You will click that circle and it will direct you to the Unit Exit Data screen. Just like on the entry, you must make sure the date out is the correct date your client was checked out of that bed. You will use the drop-down list to specify their reason for leaving, and then their destination after exiting. Please note that a client's destination is a universal data element and is very important for project outcomes, so please choose carefully. Next, you will go through and make sure that all this information on your client's Ude assessment is still correct at exit. Then, you will look to the bottom and click Save and Exit. Now you will be redirected to your shelter inventory information page to show the most current data. Now you may return to the home screen. Since we have now worked through how to properly enter and exit a client from a bed, let's work through a scenario. For example, if a client was checked into bed number 3 when they first came to project, but something happened and they needed to be moved to another bed, we would need to reflect that change in the system. To do that, you will repeat all the steps as before to get to your shelter inventory information page. You will then locate the client you wish to move and click on their name, the hyperlink, and it will direct you to their unit entry data screen. Underneath the date in, you will see the unit name number field. On that same line to the right of your screen, you will see a button that says Assign Unit. Once you click it, a little box will pop up on your screen with your project's name and then bed list. You will use the drop-down menu to select the appropriate bed you would like to move your client to and then click the button that says Select. After clicking the Select button, you will notice a change on their unit entry screen that shows the new unit number. Meaning, your client no longer occupies bed number 3, your client now occupies bed number 5. Once you have changed this client's unit number, please keep in mind that you are not to change the date in. This date in is associated to the day they began occupying a bed within your project. If you change the date in to the date they began occupying this new bed, you will lose the bed unit data prior to this. Just to reiterate, do not change the date in listed on the unit data screen if your client has switched beds. Leave it at the original date listed. Then, as always, you will then review the information on your screen to make sure that it is all correct, and then scroll to the bottom of your page and click Save and Exit. You will automatically be redirected to your shelter inventory, and at this point, you may now return to your home screen.
Let's take a moment and look over the summary. When checking a client into a bed, you are unable to be in backdate mode. Please be sure that the date in matches the actual date the client began to occupy the bed. The View All button is where you are able to view your shelter's entire inventory list. To search for a client, you can use their name and social security number, or they can be found by using their designated HMIS client ID number. The U.S. military veteran question is initially answered on the client search screen, but it can also be answered on the client profile screen. Once you have checked your client into a bed, an entry into your project will be created at the same time. If a client switches beds, you do not update the date in field. Once a client has been checked into a bed, a service of shelter stay is automatically created in the background. To view the client's past shelter stays, you will go to the Service Transaction tab on the client's record. Remember these points when completing the length of time on streets, in an emergency shelter, or a safe haven section. Only answer yes to the first question when the client is entering your project directly from the streets, an emergency shelter, or a safe haven. The exception is if they were in an institutional setting for less than 90 days and came from one of those locations just before being institutionalized. When entering the date the client's current episode of homelessness started, you may use their current entry day into your project if they cannot remember the exact day. For example, if their entry date to your project is 10/3 of 2015, but they only remember their last episode of homelessness starting in May sometime, then you can put a start date of 5/3/2015. Count the number of times the client has been homeless in the past 3 years, even if they are not entering your project directly from the streets, an emergency shelter, or safe haven. Only use never in the past 3 years for diversion or homeless prevention because the question says to include today as an episode. Add up the accumulated months of homelessness during the past 3 years, where the client was either living in the streets, in an emergency shelter, or a safe haven. Any single day or part of a month counts as one full month for this question. If a case manager needs to record more data on the client's profile, such as income, non-cash benefits received, or health insurance information, you can do so through the Entry/Exit tab on the client's profile. As a reminder, if you have any questions, feel free to contact us at the HMIS Help Desk via email at hmissupport@cir.org or by phone or text at 602-908-3605. Thank you, and please refer back to your training confirmation email for further instructions.